Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. In this video we will talk about the new Russian offensive north of Kharkiv. After 20 days of fighting, how are Russian advances in that region? And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. On May 10th, Russia launched a powerful offensive against northern Kharkiv, following three main axes. One against Vovchansk and Tsaritsa, another against Liptsi, passing through Hlibok, and a third, much smaller one, towards Roptivka, north of the city of Kharkiv. When Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022, one of the main objectives was to encircle and occupy Kharkiv, the second largest Ukrainian city and the largest industrial hub in the country. But despite the tremendous Russian force deployed against the city, the Ukrainian defenses held out, with the Russian invasion forces being definitively driven out of the region in the Ukrainian counteroffensive of September 2022. So when Russia attacked northern Kharkiv again this May, some believed it might be a second Russian attempt to capture that important Ukrainian city. However, according to a statement made by Vladimir Putin himself, this offensive was part of a plan to create a buffer zone between the Ukrainian Kharkiv Oblast and the Russian Belgorod Oblast, to prevent the Ukrainians from attacking that Russian region. After 6 months of delays in the release of a major U.S. package worth nearly $61 billion, Ukraine's stockpiles of weapons and ammunition were virtually exhausted, allowing Russia to make some important gains, such as in Avdiivka, in the Donetsk region. With so few weapons and ammunition, many saw the start of a new Russian offensive as imminent. However, despite being expected, the Russian attack on northern Kharkiv on May 10 took the Ukrainian defenses by surprise, which were still severely affected by a critical lack of weapons and ammunition. This combination of surprise and low ammunition stocks allowed Russia to advance a few kilometers along the border, entering the northern part of the city of Vovchansk and approaching the city of Liptsi. And now, 20 days after the start of this Russian offensive, how is the attack on northern Kharkiv going? Is Putin any closer to achieving his goal of creating a buffer zone along the entire border? According to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the situation north of Kharkiv is still very serious and grave, with General Alexander Syrsky, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian forces, reporting on Thursday, May 30th, via his social networks that Russia is accumulating more and more forces in the region. According to General Syrsky, Russia is currently concentrating forces on the Streltsy-Lipsk axis, with movements also being noted in the Vovchansk region. According to the Ukrainian military, this concentration of Russian forces is the result of the redeployment of troops from other areas of the front line, with Ukrainians reporting movements that appear to indicate a decrease in the Russian military presence in areas such as Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. In other words, in order to advance north of Kharkiv, Putin is being forced to withdraw some of his forces from southern Ukraine. However, despite this buildup of forces, General Syrsky reported that the flow of American weapons and ammunition has already returned to normal, and that now, for the first time in over a year, no Ukrainian unit is suffering from a shortage of ammunition, which, according to Syrsky, is enough to hold back the Russian advance on the three main axes north of Kharkiv. This has led Russia to change its strategy in that sector of the front, now prioritizing airstrikes against the Ukrainian rearguard, aiming to try to destroy Ukrainian ammunition depots and affect the logistical effort in that area. And on the ground, the Russian strategy has also changed, with General Syrsky reporting that there is practically no presence of large Russian armored formations north of Kharkiv, with the Russians preferring to opt for the deployment of light infantry units and fast transports in an attempt to take the Ukrainian defenses by surprise in calmer sectors. Specifically in the city of Vovchansk, the Ukrainians managed to recover some territories, but, according to the Ukrainian armed forces, in the last 5 days, the Russians have advanced 300 meters towards Lipetsk. Therefore, according to Kiev, Russia still seems to be very focused on its offensive north of Kharkiv, even going so far as to withdraw some units from other relatively calmer sectors in order to reinforce that offensive. However, with the normalization of the flow of weapons and ammunition, the Ukrainians managed to slow the Russian advance in some points, even liberating some small areas in Vovchansk. This seems to indicate that Russia still maintains a certain level of tactical advantage on the ground, forcing the Ukrainians to keep a considerable number of troops in the rearguard in order to be able to respond quickly if Russia advances in other areas. Therefore, for the Ukrainians, the situation in the north of Kharkiv continues to be seen as serious and grave. With Russia, by accumulating forces in that regard, it seems to be preparing to open other axes of attack. However, in terms of real advance, very little has changed in the last 15 days. With that front stagnant, and with the soldiers forced to fight in a terrible and slow war of attrition. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bells so you don't miss any news.